and gave tiny glimpse into some of the figures who are likely to shape his next administration. He further noted that he will leave the division of the past 4 years behind and forge a united America to rebuild the country again.
Who's ever seen anything like that? They came from all quarters, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment, uniting citizens of all backgrounds around a common core of common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. We want great education. We want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future for our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally again. Can you believe it? I think we've done 900 rallies approximately from them. Can you imagine? 901 something, a lot of rallies. And it was sad. Everybody was sad. Many people, I said, this is our last rally, but now we're going on to something.
Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, has been speaking about Donald Trump's win. Let's take a listen.
It was wonderful to see Americans and Ghanaians and other friends from other countries together, from civilian life and military life, young and old, together witnessing a very important democratic moment for the United States. And there were a lot of similarities, or there are a lot of similarities between, and I have to be careful about drawing that now, between the American election and the Ghanaian election, with a former president running against a sitting vice president. Again, historical. But there are also many differences. The United States, we're all focused on the top of the ticket. But in fact, what you see in the United States isn't one election run by a national election commission. It's many, many different elections. The presidential, of course, important, but a third of our senators are elected. Our entire lower house, or our entire House of Representatives in Virginia, where I voted, the school board members were on the ballot, and constitutional provisions and bonds and that kind of stuff. So there will be more to watch, even though we've had a big finale. And I think because of the proximity of American and Ghanaian elections, it's important to acknowledge that elections are messy. They're messy because they're participatory, because we're airing grievance and we're airing issues and the way that we feel differently about them. But I was at the National Peace Council meeting of stakeholders yesterday with the Danish ambassador and the UN country representative, and the head of the National Peace Council stood up and said, remember that this isn't a battle between enemies, it's a contest between fellow Ghanaians or fellow Americans about the issues and about the future of the country and how we want it to go. And once elections end, we have to be attentive to that. And it's hard to put aside that kind of partisanship that so motivates us before an election, but it is incredibly important and precious. I think, I don't mean to be preachy, but it's something I'm very proud of as an American, is our ability to do that. And I think we need to remember that today. We need to remember that every vote counts, that the young people who voted for the first time are learning like incredibly important elections about democracy, as they will in Ghana. And we all learn, I think, through experiences like this, how fragile democracy can be, how fragile democratic institutions can be, and how they must be protected and fought for, you know, really with our lives, because they are what makes us American or Ghanaian. It's what makes America and Ghana peaceful and stable and prosperous, is that democracy and our ability to then hold hands.
Let's still maintain focus on the U.S. election, and the international relations expert Dr. Emmanuel Hoover has stated that Trump's presidency will present some dynamics to Africa, especially in area of migration. He highlighted that when Trump takes the seat as president, he will restrict the number of Africans having access to the USA and repatriate illegal immigrants in the USA. His comments follows the triumph of the Republican leader Donald Trump in the U.S. election. He spoke to ABC News Ghana minutes after the election's outcome was known.
Important because Trump may equally restrict the number of Africans who are having access to the U.S. Remember, during his first term, he put this blanket ban on Muslim-dominated countries, which affected some of our African brothers. So you will see a more restriction on Africans entering the U.S. You also see some repatriation of illegal migrants of African origin. It's also important because Trump may equally restrict the number of Africans who are having access to the U.S. Remember, during his first term, he put this.
That was Ishmael Hlovo. Meanwhile, he has cautioned African leaders to focus on maximizing the resources of the continent to provide development for its citizens. According to him, the return of Donald Trump could mean a stricter U.S. foreign policy with reduction in foreign aid for African countries. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Dr. Hlovo explained that if African leaders do not put in place the necessary structure to develop their countries, they will find themselves wanting.
We in Africa, yes, Trump presidency presents these dynamics to us, but the most important dynamic Trump presidency presents to Africa is that African leaders must begin to understand that the world will not look after you if you don't look after yourself. Trump is elected president of America, and therefore, if you don't put in place the necessary structures to develop yourself, and you are waiting for foreign leaders to virtually give you kickbacks or whatever you call it, you may find yourself if leaders who are nationalistic, as it were, come into power. We in Africa, yes, Trump presidency presents these dynamics to us, but the most important dynamic Trump presidency presents to Africa is that African leaders must begin to understand that the world will not look after you if you don't look after yourself. Trump is elected president of America, and therefore, if you don't put in place the necessary structures to develop yourself, and you are waiting for foreign leaders to virtually give you kickbacks or whatever you call it, you may find yourself if leaders who are nationalistic.
Still on the U.S. election, international relations expert John Blankson has stated that even though Trump's win comes as a shock to many, his victory was based on key messages that resonate with voters and not because of the white privileges factor. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Blankson said the Democrats must think of a better strategy to use next time that could favor them. His comment comes on the back of Trump's victory over rival Kamala Harris with over 270 electoral college votes.
Tricky to for that. So whiteness does indeed play a huge role in getting elected in leadership in America. When we look at Fortune 500 companies, when we look at the Senate, when we look at governors across the state and president, I do agree that President Obama was once in a lifetime generational talent. But I also do think that we were getting close. And when we take a look at the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton had a genuine shot, but there were a lot of unprecedented factors during the last 10 days of the election that sank her. So white privilege does play a role. It's always going to be there. It was there before we were born, and it's not something realistically that I can change or you can change. And I think that as the Democratic Party needs to figure out what their message is and what do voters care about and how they can hone that message. And I still remember from 2016, Trump just saying jobs, jobs, jobs. That was his campaigning message. That's all you heard. Whether he delivered it or not, he found a way to deliver great PR for his platform. So white privilege does play a role. But the fact is, it's not going to go away. And we've had minorities rise to close enough to the office. And the work here is to figure out how we can get past white privilege, how we can rally minority communities, we can rally Latinos, we can rally more women to vote, we can rally more other people of color, LGBTQIA plus communities, we can rally them to vote, because America is growing increasingly.
Meanwhile, John Blackson emphasized the fact that Donald Trump's communication during his campaign received massive positive feedback from voters, and it's not surprising that voters have given him another opportunity to rule the U.S. again. He says the elections were based on policy message, which the American citizens believed in Trump's message.
I think it boiled down to his messaging. There are different communities in America, and Trump just knows how to touch that community and get them out to vote. I don't necessarily agree with the messaging and the style of that community, but Trump is able to get them out. He campaigned on building a wall and not having open borders. And I think Democrats, towards the end of the campaign, were really sort of like trying to figure out how to position their messaging on immigration. And Trump campaigned on, not only did he campaign on building the wall and migrant crisis, he also talked about the economy. Things are expensive, and he really knew how to get voters out. And I always say that, the social issues are important, but the economic issues are important. Because exit polls say that people did not really care much about abortion, which was the central messaging platform of Democrats. And I think it's tough, when you were putting a woman to rise to the top of the ticket, because in 2016, Secretary Clinton had hundreds and hundreds of pages of policy platforms. People did not care. So I think Harris did the opposite, and did the opposite of what Secretary Clinton did. It didn't make a difference this time around. So key things that play to his advantages, his team understands.
And away from the U.S. election, let's now fly down back to Ghana and head straight to the Parliament, where Member of Parliament for Odaklo, Kwame Governs Agboja, has given an indication that the National Democratic Congress caucus in Parliament will take the majority side when the House resumes sitting on Thursday. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, on Thursday, October 17, declared 4 seats in Parliament vacant following a petition from Tamale South MP Haruna Idrisu invoking Article 97 Clause 1G of the 1992 Constitution. The affected MPs include NDC MP for Amenfi Central, Peter Yaukwachi Aka, and 3 other MPs from the NPP, including Kojo Asante, MP for Suhum in the Eastern Region, and Cynthia Morrison of Aguna West constituency, who have filed to contest the December 7 election as independent candidate. The other affected person is Andrew Amwako Isiama, the former MP for Fomina, who entered the 8th Parliament as an independent candidate, but has since failed to contest the next election as an NPP candidate, a party he belonged to until the 2020 election. The Speaker's ruling consequently reduced the NDC's number to 136 MPs in the House and 135 for the NPP, giving a clear majority to the NDC. A situation that threw the House into a turmoil. Now, before the ruling, the NPP had 138, whereas the NDC had 137. Despite the Supreme Court's temporal suspension of Speaker Bagbin's ruling, the NDC side of the House remained resolute in their stance on the matter ahead of Thursday's sitting. Still in Parliament, the Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, Alban Bagbin Kingsford, has or will be addressing the media on recent developments within Parliament on November 6th. A press release issued by the Public Affairs Subdivision of Parliament said the Speaker will also address broader issues concerning democratic development in Ghana, quoting, "This engagement aims to provide an opportunity for the media to discuss critical issues affecting Ghana's parliamentary democracy, including recent events that have led the significant political development," unquote. Now, the release dated November 5 stated, it added that the address will also take place on Wednesday, 6th November 2024 at 2 p.m. exactly at the Justice D.F. Annan Auditorium, Job 600 Parliament House. engage a resource person who can actually help us understand exactly what is supposed to be expected from the speaker ahead of tomorrow. Tomorrow's sitting. Speaker says that he will be engaging the press. We are actually anticipating to know exactly what the speaker will be speaking about. Currently, we know so far that the House has been suspended or adjourned indefinitely. We have also progressed to a state where the Speaker says that, well, he will be reconvening members of Parliament, or they will be sitting tomorrow. Then we also have Collins Agbojam, who says that he actually is taking the Speaker to court. And now the NDC caucus also say they will still maintain their position as the majority caucus. Well, as and when we do engage our resource person, we will let you know. All right, so we do have Clement Akolo on the line. Good afternoon, Clement.
Good afternoon.
So first off, let me just ask you, right now, Speaker is expected to engage the press this afternoon. What exactly are the expectations for this afternoon?
All right, thank you. I think Mr. Speaker's engagement is timely because we are still not too sure what will happen tomorrow on the 7th when the House reconvenes. And we know that at the time he actually announced that the House was adjourning indefinitely, there was this standoff in Parliament about who is going to occupy the right-hand side of the Speaker, that is the majority side, and that was inconclusive when they went for recess. So we are hoping that today there will be a definitive pronouncement on that particular aspect of the situation in today's discussion, so that we will actually be sure what is happening tomorrow, because that is very important. And Mr. Speaker being the one who made the pronouncement in the first place, and then also having also indicated that he has been served a notice from the court regarding the situation which the majority leader sent to the Supreme Court for the interpretation of the declaration of the 4-seat vacant. We will know what step the Speaker is taking, what step Parliament is taking, whether he is sticking to his ruling or his deferring to the Supreme Court pronouncement on it, or ruling for stay of execution. So it is very, very important for him to address the press today, so that will be clear in our minds before tomorrow comes, or tomorrow's sitting.
I just also want to find out from you that, as you just rightly mentioned, that it's very important that he addresses the press or the media this afternoon. One key expectation also is the fact that what exactly are people to expect tomorrow? With regard to the fact that now the NDC caucus still maintain their position that they will not, in fact, back out from their majority position. What exactly should Speaker do or say about this afternoon?
I think Mr. Speaker's pronouncement this afternoon should rest everybody's fears, because I've heard the minority or the NDC caucus indicate that as far as they are concerned, they are basing their stance on the pronouncement by the Speaker. And therefore, if the Speaker changes his stance, or the Speaker says anything to the contrary, that's what they will obey. So everything, I think, rests on Speaker's decision and what he's going to say. And I'm sure that if he says that my decision is on the ruling that I made, and I'm trying to assert the independence of Parliament, and I think that I am right in what I did and all that, then it will mean that the status quo, that is from his side, what he has pronounced on, will stay, which would make the NDC caucus the majority. And if it is the other side, then it means that he would agree that his hands will be stayed. Those 4 MPs will still be regarded as part of it until the pronouncement by the ruling by the Supreme Court regarding the interpretation of Article 97 1, then it will mean that those 4 people will still be part of the House, which will mean that then the NPP caucus will still be the majority when it comes tomorrow. So it's very important that he makes this pronouncement. And when he makes the pronouncement, then we can gauge exactly what the mood will be tomorrow in Parliament, because I will expect the minority to, or the NDC caucus to align themselves with the position of the Speaker.
Mr. Kolo, just as you said again, there also have been some conversation on the back of this, the fact that this is the appropriate time that Speaker would have to settle the dance between the minority or whoever the majority or the minority is in Parliament. Do you also share in the sentiment of this call?
Yes, I share in the sentiment of the call, because as I indicated earlier on, it is the Mr. Speaker who will be the decider, or who would set or clarify issues with regards to the issues that we are having in Parliament as we speak. So he is the one to settle this particular dispute for the meantime. So I would expect that having admitted that he's been served by the Supreme Court and awaiting the ruling of the Supreme Court, I will expect that today he will indicate that in deference to the Constitution, which the Constitution has given the power of interpretation to the Supreme Court, then he would actually obey the Supreme Court's verdict for now, so that we will have some peace tomorrow in Parliament, and we will know that the majority will still remain with the NPP caucus, and then the minority will be with the NDC caucus until that ruling is made. I think somewhere next week. I think the Supreme Court has indicated, I think 11th of November or so, for the ruling on that particular issue. So we believe that Mr. Speaker, being a very experienced person and understands what diplomacy is, very passionate about the country's democracy and parliamentary democracy, I'm sure that he will take the right decision for us to be able to move forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clement Akolo, for engaging us in this conversation. We're grateful for your time. He is the Communications Officer for Parliamentary Network. Let's still maintain in Parliament in some legal issues. Now, lawyer Nick Pakpo Samwa, or counsel for the plaintiff, has also defended the decision by the MP for South Dai, Roxin Dafiamakpom, to seek legal action against the Speaker of Parliament over the recall of Parliament amidst the vacant seat controversy. On Monday, November 4, MP for South Dai, Roxin Nelson Dafiamakpom, filed a lawsuit against the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, seeking, among other things, a declaration that recalling Parliament while the status of 4 members of Parliament are not known, quote, will be unlawful and illegal, unquote. Now, speaking on ABC in the morning, counsel for the plaintiff, lawyer Nick Pakpo Samwa, said that it is not out of place for his client to exercise his constitutional right as a Ghanaian in pushing for the right thing to be done.
Court to make a decision yet?
I believe the citizen has exercised his right to access the courts of Ghana to have Article 99 applied in respect of a particular matter.
Okay.
And he is saying that based on the Constitution, certain seats in Parliament have become vacant. Somebody also goes to the Supreme Court for an interpretation that the Speaker does not have the right to interpret the Constitution, that it is the Supreme Court that must interpret the Constitution. And he's seeking an interpretation of Article 97. So I think that we must all learn to respect everybody's right to access the courts. And as I've already indicated, if the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement that affects the High Court decision, automatically the High Court decision.
Meanwhile, lawyer Nick Pakpo Samwa asserted that Ghana is not facing a constitutional crisis. His comment comes on the back of several Ghanaians saying the incidents that have happened in the past days at Parliament are a constitutional crisis.
Crisis is Parliament sits to pass laws all the time, and so if Parliament is on a recess, Parliament is on a recess because the Speaker has adjourned sitting because there was not a working quorum at the last time. I don't see how that would have been, how that would have been. And Parliament is supposed to sit today, tomorrow anyway. So let's wait and see what Mr. Speaker will do. I don't know what a constitutional crisis is. Parliament sits to pass laws all the time. And so if Parliament is on a recess, Parliament is on a recess because the Speaker has adjourned sitting because there was not a working quorum at the last time. I don't see how that would have been, how that would have been. And Parliament is supposed to sit today, tomorrow anyway. So let's wait and see what Mr. Speaker will do.
Away from Parliament, let's do some election news. And as you know, here on ABC, we are your election poll center. Now let's move straight to the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission, EC, has reaffirmed its dedication to ensuring an error-free electoral process, emphasizing its commitment to transparency and upholding public trust. This assurance is part of the EC's efforts to maintain democratic values as Ghana heads towards the 2024 election. In a strategic move to enhance operational efficiency, the EC has recruited over 200 professionals with backgrounds in mathematics, statistics, and other quantitative fields. Now, these specialists are expected to bring their expertise to the election process, supporting data accuracy and enhancing the credibility of results. Dr. Eric Bosman Asare, the Deputy Chairperson of the EC, discussed these efforts in a media interview.
The committee received a report from our Northern region.
Still on election, Imani Center for Policy Education has revealed that most of the promises contained by the manifestos of 3 political groupings in Ghana are vague. That's non-quantifiable. The political grouping are the New Patriotic Party, the National Democratic Congress, and Movement for Change. This was disclosed by a senior research associate at Imani Center for Policy and Education, Dennis Asare, at an event to disseminate content of a report by CORE, a manifesto on November 5th. He also added that the parties were chosen based on their performance on the literacy for sentiment and elections. That's the post-analysis tool, which also measures public sentiment about the candidate and political parties on social and traditional media.
The pattern. So you can also see that most of the manifestos too are centered around the economy and education and social service. Same as the NPP one too. We see a lot more non-quantifiable promises than the quantifiable and semi-quantifiable ones, which also shows some more vague promises in the political party manifesto, the NDC's manifesto. Then they want to constitute an independent public debt management office. This is very good because currently the one that is set up by the Ministry of Finance, based on some of the checks and engagement we've done, is just one person managing that office. And that person will not have all the capacity to do your public debt management and planning and all of that. Another challenge is that that office does not have the power to actually influence debt management strategies in terms of what actually government agrees to do at cabinet. And that is why we are saying that the Fiscal Council, if it is properly set up, could be helping this office work effectively. So this office is already there. In terms of strengthening its mandate, it's a good promise, and it's very feasible. Review and enforce the fiscal responsibility. And so we see that within the NPP and NDC, they all agree that we need to commit to specific fiscal rules. That is the 5%. One thing that the 2 manifestos also we see that they agree is that they all agree to setting up an independent fiscal council. But all of them, in terms of setting up an independent fiscal council, they don't show the level of independence that they are willing to give to that fiscal council. So it makes it very difficult to have an image or picture the sort of power that will be granted that fiscal council. Then the NDC want to review public procurement law to provide for an independent value for money office. If you look at our public procurement architecture, single sourcing and restricted tender goes to the PP.
We will do some Ghanaian election, but before that, let's revisit or go back to the U.S. election, where some politicians also have started drawing political lines to Donald Trump's victory over Kamala Harris in the U.S. presidential election. Now, some do believe that the similarities in the elections, including both election presenting a former president against a vice president, could mean that the outcome of America's election will have a bearing on Ghana's December 7 poll. Now, both the NPP and NDC have joined political cues to the result, with the two leading parties claiming that Trump's victory will culminate into a victory for them on December 7. But the question is that the case? Let's actually go over the phone and speak to Dr. Samuel Lefriye, who is a political scientist with the Kumasi Technical University. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. And how are you? Special greetings to you and your viewers.
I'm doing very fantastic. Thanks for joining us. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling actually or currently, but I just want to ask you, what exactly has been the impression, I mean, you as a political scientist? Let me just take your initial thoughts before I can proceed.
Yes, looking at the elections, some of us were not surprised about how Donald Trump won the election. He won the election because of the issue of Americans not ready for a leadership of a woman. That is the issue, and it made it very difficult because they tried on Hillary Clinton, it didn't work, and now on Harris. So it indicates that the Americans are not ready for a woman to be their leader, and that is the so actually we were not surprised about Trump winning. And Trump, you know, is one of the most controversial, complex politician that it cannot be predicted. You can't predict how he does his things, and that is what sometimes the Americans, some sections of the Americans, the indigenous Americans, try to have leaders that are so, should I say, so assertive, so kind of hard in quote to the politics that is in America and also to the world. They think that the Americans are supposed to be the boss of the world. So the Democrats are sometimes being seen as moderate, seen as accommodating as compared to the Republicans. So in general, for some of us, we were not surprised that Trump won, but I think that is something that Trump also worked hard on his weakness during his time when he lost the election to Biden.
Okay, Doc, I mean, the other school of thought is that the U.S. election mostly have some bearing when it comes to our, voting patterns here in Ghana. I just also want to find out from you, does the U.S. election have any bearing on Ghana's election outcome?
Thank you. When some try to correlate the linkage between the American and, let's say, the African elections, or let's say Ghanaian elections, that is totally I don't side with that, because the environment is different. Their democracy is well developed as compared to us. We are just just growing. For them, is a mature democracy, and their issues that they use to elect their leaders are also different from us. So it's like an advanced country and picking a developing country, and you think that what happens in a developed country you also happen in a developing country. No, the mindset of the voter in America is different from the mindset that is a Ghanaian voter, and that is something that is the basic thing. And what we expect from our leaders is not what the Americans also expect from their leaders. So the correlation that it goes this way automatically will reflect. Maybe that is what some people may play some psychological warfare or propaganda in that, because we have, I think our voting is not much more on the maturity of our voters to look at issues based. Some people use a lot of other things to vote. And that is what I think that we cannot correlate that linkage. That linkage cannot be connected for easy conclusion that it happens this way. So the Americans voted in this comeback, so automatically will come back. No, it doesn't work like that. It is about me in Ghana. It is about what do I find myself? What happens in America is not what happens to me. If I can't get job in America, I can get job. Their basis of voting will be different. So, there's no research for now that has established that fact, but it's just some people observation and also based on propaganda purpose or psychological warfare for people to think that it will also go in that form. No, I don't think so.
Dr. Samuel, you have actually established the fact that U.S. election absolutely have no bearing when it comes to Ghanaian election. But the question then remains that why do we always have these politicians always trying to, for lack of want of a better word, collaborate or want to always join or stay aligned with the U.S. election? I mean, it's some interesting patterns when you go on social media to see.
That's why I said that it's a psychological warfare that these politicians tend to play, and these political parties. They pick issues, and if they think that it will go on for them, then they will use it. But that's what I'm saying, that some people tend to use it, but on the academic purpose, on research basis, we cannot have that linkage so being established. But it's a psychological, and I think some people, it works for them, and because of our mindset and how we decide. Because if, for example, someone will say that Donald Trump is a former president, he has come back, so it also works. But that is what people will think. But if we go according to what issues, what things that we have to do, the environment and the situations are different. And as I said, there's a woman here that contested with Trump. And the U.S. have an issue with women being leaders, as they tried with Clinton, as I said earlier, Hillary Clinton. So that is a totally, just imagine a woman and competing where Americans are not ready for that. So in that case, so if we compare a former vice president and somebody will say a certain vice president and also a former president, so it will work that way. That is what I'm saying, that they want to play the minds of these voters for their own interest, and that is what. And some might work, but it might not have a major impact on voters to make a decision. No, it doesn't work like that.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Ifriye, for giving us your idea on this interesting election that has been held in the U.S. We do appreciate your time. We have been speaking to Dr. Samuel Ifriye, who is a political scientist at the Kumasi Technical University. Away from the U.S. election, let's now settle down in Ghana and move straight to the NDC, where the National Democratic Congress NDC presidential candidate John Mahama has accused the government of attempting to shift the responsibility of the current power crisis onto a future NDC administration should his party win the upcoming election. Mahama claims that the government has deliberately refrained from issuing a load-shedding timetable to conceal the full extent of the country's electricity issues. According to him, his ongoing disruption stems from the recent withdrawal from the Sonin Asogli from the power supply sector, exacerbating the crisis. He further alleged that the administration intend to leave an estimated amount, about $2 billion debt, for the next government to address, which would severely constrain future solutions and deepen the sector's challenges. Mahama made these remarks while addressing supporters in Ahia Manchini in the Karachi West District.
Omo yane se omo kremu kakra so munim say NDC na eba na dumso a omode aba no dumso foforo omode aba yi na omo apia ahye NDC so menemu ka say enfidia especially nya omo free amanone a omo ye yiram kania e wo Ghana ha e ka enne ye di omo e yakọ $2 billion and you see this almost $2 billion and omo deka enti omo manage kame kakra January 7th NDC aban for ba you say hey and you muso monje so make a check Ghana for say me and Papa NDC no credit for ye gia ye be kire mo ne wo ho na ye wo ma ne mema ye betimi asom ne asiesie ne aye ne yie se ne be ya.
Away from politics, let's settle on some health-related issue where the National HIV and AIDS Control Program of the Ghana Health Service has reported over 33,000 new HIV infections detected from January to the third quarter of 2024. This was reviewed by the program manager by the National HIV and AIDS Control Program, Dr. Stephen A.C. Addo. Speaking at the launch of the 2024 World AIDS Day organized by the Ghana AIDS Commission, he noted the importance of public testing and screening, revealing that approximately 1.3 million people were screened during this period. He also expressed concern about the number of HIV infections recorded in the first 3 quarters of 2024, noting that it poses a significant challenge to Ghanaian goal of ending the epidemic by active individuals to prioritize their health by also constantly and correctly using condom as a protective measure against HIV and other sexually related transmitted infection. Now, World AIDS Day, celebrated annually on December 1, serves as a critical reminder for countries to renew their commitment to preventing new HIV infections and providing essential services for all individuals living with HIV globally. The theme for 2024 World AIDS Day is Take the Right Path. The Ghana AIDS Commission announced a series of activities planned for the World AIDS Day, including a grand deba in Accra on December 2, 2024. This event will involve a lot of representatives and the Ministry of Health, including the USAID and the National Association of Persons Living with HIV. Quite some worrying issue over there, but we are back with some business news. To stay with us. Africa has expressed concerns over the feasibility of the new patriotic party's proposed gold purchase program as a solution for stabilizing the cedi, arguing that it may be insufficient to address Ghana's currency and economic challenges. Speaking at Imani's 2024 Manifesto, Dennis Asari, a senior research associate at Imani Africa, outlined key issues with the programs, which has been highlighted in the NPP's manifesto by flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. The initiative involved the Bank of Ghana purchasing gold from the local market, particularly from small-scale mining operations, to strengthen national reserves and support the cedi. The president of the food and beverage industry, Reverend John Awuni, has bemoaned the woes of suppliers in the food and beverages industry attributed to the constant rise of the dollar against the depreciation of the cedi. He said that suppliers are suffering huge losses with the exchange rates crippling businesses. Earlier this year, FABAG appealed to the government to to make the 2024 budget business friendly by removing what they describe as nuisance tax in the tax structure. They had also hoped that the exchange rate stabilizes for businesses to recoup their losses.
This doesn't look so, most especially as the cedi moved within a week or two from 16 to 16.1, 16.2, finally to 17 cedis in the forex bureaus. And that is a very worrying issue, because businesses are still going to suffer serious losses, because if you have most of the goods in the Ghanaian market are on credit, the retailers and the wholesalers really are not able to buy. But this doesn't look so, most especially as the cedi moved within a week or two from 16 to 16.1.
That's all for business, but let's do one local story where the parliamentary candidate for Nsewo Madridri of the Ghana Freedom Party, Patrick Tete, has stated emphatically that the Ghana Freedom Party will contest in the 2024 general election, and added that any statement saying otherwise should be disregarded by the public. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Mr. Tete revealed that they have not received any money from anyone to withdraw from the election, stressing that the party has filed its presidential and running mate nomination to the Electoral Commission, awaiting for the position of the party on the ballot paper to proceed with its election campaign.
Ghana Freedom Party is contesting for the 7th December general election. So any other news should be disclaimed. Nobody should understand or accept any other news that comes, because Ghana Freedom Party has filed our presidential and running mates to the Electoral Commission, and the Electoral Commission has received. Therefore, we are waiting patiently for the Electoral Commission to come back to us to announce the position, so we can proceed with our democratic process of Ghana. As we all know, every political party have executive, have heads, and Ghana Freedom Party is no exemption. Ghana Freedom Party has executive, that is the General Secretary of Ghana Freedom Party with the name Mr. George Afo, and there are 4 parliamentary candidates in the upcoming election. That is for Mr. George Bencher, who is the Kwabri East Mapontin constituency parliamentary candidate. We have Mr. Isaac Gamashi, who is the Asante Achim Central constituency parliamentary candidate. We have Mr. Frank Obriyabua, who is Old Tafo constituency parliamentary candidate, and myself, Patrick Tete, who is in Nsewo Madridri constituency parliamentary candidate. We have the Kwabri East Women Organizer. We have other executives which were involved. So,
again, Mr. Tete categorically debunked claims of yesterday's press release that Richard Botry and Seth Tewia are members of the Ghana Freedom Party, charging them to come out and speak if they are indeed members.
First of all, I would like to clarify this. So it isn't Patrick that made a declaration of Roman Father as the flag bearer or running mate of Ghana Freedom Party. Whoever that is saying is a national organizer or which were the supporters, which are the people, that person should just come out, because I'm telling you that, led by the General Secretary and followed by Mr. Apia Kubi, who is the presidential candidate, and Ms. Vida Ishon, who is the running mate, with all the people that I mentioned, are the team that went to the EC to present her nomination. So whoever that is speaking should come out and tell us the position that they hold in the party. Richard Tewia, or whatever that they call Richard Botry, is not a recognized person of Ghana Freedom Party. So
Sports News is up next. You stay with us. Sport, Black Stars head coach Otto Addo is set to unveil his squad for the final 2 matches of the 2025 African Cup of Nations qualifiers later this week, facing a high-stakes situation. The Black Stars need nothing short of 2 victories to keep their slim hopes of qualification active. or alive. Ghana's last two Group F clashes are against Angola on November 15 and Niger on November 18. After 4 matches, they sit third on the table with just 2 points, having drawn 2 games and suffered 2 losses. With these last 2 fixtures remaining, Ghana's chances of qualifying for the tournament in Morocco are now hanging by the thread. Now, to secure the spots, the team must win both games and rely on Sudan losing both of its final matches. Coach Addo is expected to announce a 25-man squad for Friday, November 8th. Away from sports, we're back with some international stories to see.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, #1 on the ballot.
All be lie. Thank you, boss. See you next week. Yo, where is my passport? Where is my passport? Yo, man, I want to Waba.
What is that?
And then
give me my passport. You made me pay for express for 24 hours and yet it's not in.
You told me that you are telling me this. What's going on? Hello.
This man here has taken my money. That within 24 hours he'll do my passport for me.
Oh, the same thing applies to me. He told me last night. He's telling me this week.
Process.
That's what they do.
Yeah. Oh, madam. Please relax. I'll get for you in 24 hours.
Hey, Goroma. So you never change? You get passport for someone within 24 hours, Madam Obwa. See, the normal working hours is 9 to 5. Not 24 hours, I'm fat. You guys have made a very big mistake by trusting these people. Now, through digitalization, passport application has been made so easy. Now, you don't need to stress yourself and join any long queue for your passport. All you have to do is to log on to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and begin your application. By buying a passport application voucher online. Simple and easier. And very soon, all you need to get your passport will be your Ghana card.
What is it true?
Obiza. It is possible.
You yourself, I didn't know this.
You're welcome back. Now, some international news where world's political leaders have started to offer their messages of congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump on his election win. Now, the well wishes came from key allies that Trump will work with to address issues on the global stage, including United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Now, Starmer said in a statement that he looks forward to working with Trump in the years ahead and that the UK and US will stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of their shared values of freedom, democracy, and enterprises. Macron called back to their time working together during Trump's first term, saying he is ready to collaborate as they did for 4 years previously. Saying, and I quote, "With your conviction and mine with respect to ambition for peace and prosperity," unquote, said Macron. Zelensky, who also has worked to maintain a close relationship with the US, especially since Russia's 2022 invasion of his country, called Trump's win impressive and said he looked forward to continuing the country's partnership. His statement comes as the issue of the continued US aid for Ukraine has become polarized, with greater numbers of Republicans declaring their opposition to it. He said, and I quote, "We look forward to an era of a strong United States of America under President Trump's decisive leadership. We rely on continued strong bipartisan support for Ukraine in the United States," unquote, Zelensky said. Then again, Israeli President or Prime Minister Benjamin also congratulated Trump and the incoming First Lady Melania on history's greatest comeback. President Felipe Nyusi of Mozambique, has argued an end to the deadly protests against the recent election result. The protests, which began after the October 9th election, have resulted in more than a dozen dead and dozens of injuries. Opposition parties and observers have alleged electoral fraud, while the ruling party, Fremilo, has denied any wrongdoing. Protesters are demanding justice for the victims and calling for electoral reform. In response to the escalating violence, the government has warned that it may deploy the army to quell the unrest. This has raised concerns about further human rights abuse and civilian casualties. The United Nations Security Secretary General, the European Union, and the African Union have all commended the violence and called for investigations into the killing. Human rights organizations such as Amnesty International have also argued and urged the government to end the protest elections. We're back with some entertainment news. Entertainment, Cardi B has expressed her concern over Kamala Harris trailing behind Donald Trump in the 2024 U.S. presidential election. She took to social media tweeting, quoting, "We need to Hail Mary," unquote. During the counting of results, this phrase is often used in American football to describe a desperate long-distance pass attempt to score a touchdown in the final minute of a game. In the contest of the election, Cardi B's Hail Mary call seemed to be a plea for a dramatic turnaround in the vote count. Potentially,